So in this video we will just continue learning about what is functions and what are the major functions which will help us to manage the attributes which are there used in the class. Okay, so we do have this built-in functions, and these functions will help us to manage the attributes which are there in as part of the class. So say if I want to use or access a particular attributes of an object, I can use get attribute. If I want to check if a particular attribute exists or not, I can actually use has attribute. And now if I want to set an attribute with a new value, okay, then I can use the set attribute. But when you are using set attribute, just make sure that if the attribute does not exist, it will not be created. Now you can actually delete an attribute by using this DELATTR, right? So my pet dot name, the above can also be accessed, right? So this can be accessed as get attribute. What is the object name is actually my pet, right? So my pet name, what is name? So name. So I want to access name in the my pet. So I can also access either my pet dot name or get attribute of my pet comma name. So these are the ways where you could actually use functions to access or manage your attributes of a particular class. So this is kind of a different way that you could use or access a particular attributes of a class by using the function. So if you want to do that, then you can use this get attribute, that's all. So if you simply call my pet dot name, it is same as using get attribute of my pet comma name. Now so this is a simple example. So what we could do is that we will just quickly go back to our program. So in our program, if you could see, so here we have a class student. Okay, we have a class student, and for this class student we have two attributes. One is actually marks, which is 99, and his name is Ahmed. Okay, and the person is equal to student. What is this? This is nothing but class instantiation, right? It is actually class instantiation. That means you are creating an instance. You are creating an instance for the class student, right? So this is what actually you are doing for the class student. Now you want to access with the help of this particular person object, you need to access this marks and name. So the easiest way is nothing but we can simply use person dot marks. This is possible, right? This is basically possible. And the other one is that if you want to print, say print person dot marks, it is basically possible, right? You can actually print person dot marks, and the same time you can also go for person dot name. So this is actually possible. Okay. Person dot simply using the dot operator, right? So now when we print this, so, sorry, because I used a incorrect single comment, so that's why we got an error earlier. So when you simply print this, so this is actually possible because we have a class, we are simply accessing with the help of this object, this marks and name, right? So it is actually getting printed here, right? Now I'm just commenting it. Now there is another way. What is another way? Another way is actually using this get attr, right? So how can you use? So we are using get attr, okay, get attr, and the object name. What is object name? Object name is person, and which attribute I want to access? I want to say access name. Now I am actually saving or assigning that to a new variable name, and I am printing the name. So what happened as Ahmed is printed? In the same way, I am giving name, marks, and I am assigning it to a new variable. I can also use marks 1. So it doesn't matter whether it has to be mark or whatever it is, say name 1 or whatever it is. If I run, what happens? I will get the result. What is it? Ahmed and 99, right? Hope you understood how to use this get attr. So get attr is just a function which will help you to access your attributes in a class. Now the other one which you have to identify is that you can provide default value to a get attribute. Okay, so this is an important question, or this is something really important. Say when you have a class right? You have a class and you are actually creating a instance of the class, and it is person, and say you are calling like the sex is, okay. So sex is actually the get attr person sex male. Can you see an property sex for this particular class person? No, actually we have given only age and name. We have not given any, or we don't have any anything in the person class, right? But here what are we doing? See here, get attribute, okay, the person. So this person is this one, this is the object, okay, object, and now sex male. So when you run this, basically you will get the sex is male, okay. So basically you are actually kind of giving there is another attribute sex, and for this particular thing it is actually male, okay. So this is actually possible with the help of, so you can actually provide a default value to a particular class and you can actually call it. Yes, I want to just show you this also. Say you are actually providing a default value here, and this default value is not making any changes to your person class, because say if you are trying to print this person dot sex, it just says that this output is actually the output of this one, okay, the output of this one, okay. Now you have another print, right? So when you are trying to access person dot sex here, it just says that the attribute does not have an attribute sex, okay. So this is one thing which you have to keep in mind. How to use it you have to understand. Now the other one is that, say if you are not giving the default value, okay, if you are not giving the default value, that means that, say get attribute person sex, we already know that this attribute does not exist here, right? So when an attribute does not exist, okay, and when you are trying to call it like person sex, it's exactly like this person dot sex, right? When you are trying to call it like that, it gives you an error, sorry, it just gives you an error stating the same thing, like see, you don't have an attribute sex, okay. So this one, okay, this one and this one, it's all the same, and both of them are the same, and both of them will not work, okay. Now there is another activity which you could actually try by yourself, okay. So now we will learn more about inheritance. So we will move on to the next concept, which is nothing but inheritance. So inheritance is kind of one of the major properties of object oriented programming, and it's such a beautiful concept, right? So we all know that, say we have parents and we are the kids, so we inherit from our parents. So maybe some characteristics, maybe some genetics, maybe even some some issues, all those things we inherit from our parents, right? So inheritance is kind of the transfer of this characteristics. Maybe the nose which is sitting upon our face is maybe from our mama, right? We know that, maybe from our parents, maybe from our grandparents. So we inherit like that, right? So the transfer of the characteristics of a class from one class to another class basically is called as inheritance. And inheritance is a process of creating a new class. So the new class which is actually created from the parent class is called as a derived class, okay. So you have a parent class, and from the parent class you can have derived class, and the parent classes are basically called as a base class, okay. So Python allows inheritance from a single parent, or you can also inherit from multiple parents, right? So both multiple inheritance and single inheritance is both accepted in here. So parent class is the class being inherited from, and or they are called as a base class, and child class is also called as a derived class, okay. So to create an inheritance relation between two classes, the parent class name is sent as a parameter, okay, to the creating class. So that means you have a child class, child class of the parent class name will be passed, and the child class, so there is some ways that you can actually override. So what do you mean by override? Override means you are actually bypassing, okay. Say you have parents property, you want to bypass and get that property, okay, you could do that. So you are just overriding the normal rule which is actually followed, right? Which should not be done in the real life, but still, yeah. So here actually it is, you can actually override with the help of this init function. So if you have an init function in the child class, then you can actually override the inheritance. That means then the overriding, I mean, like there is no rule that you have to inherit it, because that inheritance is overridden. and Python also allows a super function. So super function that will make the child class inherit all the methods and properties from your parent. So if you have a super function in your child class, then you are automatically inheriting everything from your parent class. And if you want to inherit, override your inheritance, then you can also use this init function. And you also have this concept called method overriding. So if you want to specifically override a particular method, that is also possible in Python, right? And there are certain inbuilt methods which are there in the which is commonly used for inheritance. One is instance. That means you can always check whether, say you have person from the major class person, or you have vehicle and you have car. So car is actually an object of the vehicle, right? Then you could say that whether you can check whether is instance of. So this is instance will help you to identify whether it is actually an object of the base class. Then is instance can also have some parameters associated with it, and there is something called subclass to check the class inheritance itself. Okay. And yeah, now we will see a certain examples. And yeah, the other thing is like something called multiple inheritance. So multiple inheritance is that actually you can inherit from multiple parents. Okay. And yeah, so we will see some examples here. Now again going back to the inheritance here in the notebook. Okay. So we have a class animal. Okay. And there is a constructor like speak. Okay. There is a function speak which actually just prints that animal speaking. Okay. So this is your base class. Okay. Now how do you know that it's a base class? Because there is another class dog of animal. So what is this of animal? This animal is nothing but this base class. So whenever you have a child class, the base class is actually passed as a parameter to the child class. Okay. That is exactly actually what we have actually told here. Okay. Say if you have a if you have a base class, what you have to do is that you need to actually pass the yes, here it is. So if you could see this, to create a inheritance relationship, the parent class name is actually sent as a parameter when creating the child class. This is exactly what we are seeing here. So the parent class name is actually passed as a parameter. Okay, it's actually passed as a parameter when creating the child class. So this is your child class dog, right? So again here you have bark, and it's just dog barking. It will just simply print dog barking. Now, okay ma'am, now how can I create the objects? Okay, so now when you actually create d is equal to dog, to which class are you creating the object? You are actually creating the object for your child class. Okay, you are actually creating an object for child class dog. Child class dog. Okay, child class dog. Now you are calling d dot bark. So bark is already there inside your dog class. So it is very simple. It will simply print dog barking. Now you are actually calling d dot speak. Okay. So can you see a speak function within this child class dog? No. But you already know that this animal class is actually inherited by the dog class, right? Because dog of animal. So now what it could do? It can actually call, if you call d dot spark. So d is actually speak. D is a object which is actually created for the dog class. But as the dog class is actually inherited from the animal class, it can actually access the methods and the variables or whatever it is within the animal class. So when you call d dot speak, it will not throw you any error. It will simply whatever is there, which is whatever is the procedure that has to be done, that method will be called and its corresponding answer will be printed. So you will be able to access with the using a child class instance. Okay, so you have a base class and you have a child class. The child class is actually inherited from the base class animal. Now in your child class you have only one particular method called bark, and in the base class you have only one particular method called speak. Okay, now you are actually creating an instance for the child class and with the help of that instance you can either access your own method in the child class, and also you can access the method in the parent class. So that is what we have actually learned here. So hope you understood the concept of inheritance. Now there is something called multi-level inheritance. Okay, so I'll just show you something. Say you have a particular class. So you have a class, this is your A class. Okay, from the A class, okay, so this is B class and this is say C class. So I will tell you, B class is actually inherited from A, okay, and C is actually inherited from B. Okay, now when you look here, there are multiple levels of inheritance which are happening, right? So this kind of a thing is called as multi-level inheritance. This is called as multi-level. Okay, you have like a level parking, you have multiple levels, right? So this is actually the child of B and B is actually the child of A. Okay, so now what will be the inheritance properties that you will be following in such scenarios? Okay, so that is nothing but multi-level inheritance. So you have a, say when you look at here, which is the base class, how will you know that which is the base class? This class 1 is the base class, right? Now how will you know that class 2 is inherited from which class? Yes, class 2 is actually inherited from class 1. So this class 2 is actually the child class of class 1. Now how do you know that who is actually this class 3 is inherited from either class 1 or class 2? Because you are actually passing the parent class here, right? You are actually passing the parent class here, class 2. So class 2 is actually inherited by this class 3. So now when you look at a real-time example for multi-level, okay, it is for multi-level inheritance. See here, so you have a class animal, okay, where this is the parent class. Okay, so this is basically your parent class, and in that you have one method, speak. Okay, now you have a dog class, which is actually the child of animal class, and it has got one particular method called bark. Okay, now there is another class called dog child, which is actually inherited from dog. Okay, so this dog child is the child of this dog class and this dog is the child of this animal class. Now understand, you are going to create a object, you are actually creating an object for dog child. Okay, so you are actually going to create an object for dog child, which is nothing but D. Now you are trying to access D dot eat. Okay, so if you are accessing D dot eat, will there be any issue? No, no issue, because it's its own method, so no problem. So it will say that eating bread, right? Now you are trying to access E dot speak. It will not cause any issue because the dog class is already passed. Sorry, dog class is already passed, so it's actually inherited from this dog class, so no problem. So it will actually this one dog dot bark, it will not cause any problem because it will simply give you dog barking. Now see here, you are actually using this dog dot speak. Okay, so dog dot speak means this dog child is not directly related to animal, right? Animal class at all. Dog child is actually from this dog, and dog is actually inherited from animal, right? So it's like we are trying to access something from our grandparents thing, right? This is something like this. But will you be able to access? Yes, you will be able to access because you have an inheritance which is relationship between this dog and animal already, right? So I will just rearrange this for the sake of understanding. So you will have this D dot eat, which is easily accessible. Then you will have this bark, which is because you are the direct parent of it. Dog is the direct parent of the dog child. And now you have you are trying to access the speak, which is kind of your grandparent. Okay, but still when you run this, you will get everything printed: eating bread, okay, the dog barking, animal speaking. So all these things will be printed because you have a multi-level inheritance. So you are like you are accessing your father's things and father is accessing his parents, that is your grandfather. So the child can access the grandparent things, right? So it just goes like that. So this is multi-level inheritance. Now comes the next one. Next one is pretty simple, and but you have to understand as well. Say multiple. It is called as multiple inheritance. Okay, it is called multiple inheritance. So multiple inheritance means you have a class A and you have another class B, and there is another class C which inherits from both. Okay, so you can have multiple parents, you can have multiple parent classes. You are actually accessing multiple parent classes. That is the meaning of this multiple inheritance. Say if this A has got certain properties and B has got some properties and member functions, if C is actually inherited from both A and B, then C can actually access its own properties and methods. Apart from that, it can also access A's properties and member functions and B's properties and member functions, right? So now when you look at here, say you have a base one. So how do you know that it's a base class? It's not inherited from anything. So you know that it's a parent class. Now here this is actually another parent class base 2. Now see here you have a derived class where see this is the place where we will actually pass the parent classes, right? So here we are actually passing both base 1 and base 2, right? So that means that this derived class is actually the daughter, I mean like it's a kid of both, or it inherits both from base 1 and base 2, right? So now when we see a real-time example, if you could see, you have a calculation class, okay, where you does the summation of A plus B. Where do you have another calculation where you does the multiplication. So these are your base classes, and now you have a derived class which inherits from both calculation and calculation 2, and you also have your own method there in your derived class. So now when you try to access, say D is equal to derived means you are actually creating an object for the child. Now you are trying to access D dot summation of AB. So 10, 20, D dot multiplication and D dot divide. So everything is actually possible. Why? Because you are actually the child from both the parents. So when you run this, you will get the answer. Say 10, 20, divide 10, 20, you will divide 10, 20 and you will get your answer. And you are passing 10, 20 here. So you are getting the summation result, you are getting the multiplication result here, right? So this is nothing but multiple inheritance. So we have just seen about a simple inheritance, then multi-level inheritance and multiple inheritance. Okay. So now, for your exams, I might be giving you certain scenarios and might be asking you to develop a program which confines to any of this inheritance or which incorporates all this inheritance. Okay. Now comes the method overriding, as I said. So method overriding is something which we know. So you have a animal class. So this animal class is your parent class, and you already know by this time, like this dog animal is dog of animal means that so dog is actually is inherited from animal. And see here the method which I am using here is speak itself, right? So this dog class, basically the child class, has got its own speak method. Okay, its own speak method, which is actually nothing but barking. Okay, now I have this animal class where I have another speak method. So this speak method is actually part of the animal class, and this speak method is actually part of the dog class. So now I am creating a method D. Okay, I am creating a method D. So when I am trying to I am creating an object D for the dog class. Now when I am calling this D dot speak, what will happen automatically? By default, barking will be printed. Okay, barking will be printed. Now just imagine I wanted to access this speaking. Okay, I wanted to access the speaking. What will I do? So that is what we are going to see. So that is what we have actually explained it in our in our function also, in our PPT also. So if you want to override the parents method, then you should have an init function. Okay, you should definitely have an init function which will help you to override and use your parents method. Say overriding means, say you have a same function, okay, a similar function both in your parent class and both in your child class. Okay, so now how can I access the this particular speak function in the animal class? That is what the question is. So the child, say if you want to override the parents method, you have to definitely use this init function, right, as we have already told earlier in the previous session, right. So, so how can we do that? So, we can actually do that. Say mainly we will use this overriding. So, the first thing which you have to understand is that now mainly we will use this overriding if your child and the parent has got the same name. Okay. Say in the last example we have actually seen this example, right. Say in this example we have seen, say in the dog class we have this speak function, and in the animal class also has speak function, but in the dog class we are actually barking, that is what we are doing, but in the animal class we are actually speaking. But when the interpreter is concerned, see, when we look at it, it is all the same, it is speak dot self, it is speak dot self, it doesn't matter what is actually inside, so it could be confusing, right. So, this is actually a situation of overriding. So, now the dog class has to override in order to access this particular thing. So, how can we do that? So, now you understood this example, right, why we were able to print this. So, dog dot speak, if we ask, it just clearly gives you what is inside its own class. Now, say if you want to override, there are two ways to do that, okay, as we have seen in our this thing, there are two ways to see that. One is actually we can call the parents init function. Other than that, it is you can actually use a super function, okay. So, either this one or the super function. So, either you can use this super function, okay, or you can actually call the parents init function. So, these are the two ways actually you could override the parents method. So, how can we do that? So, we will see this one first, how can we actually do that. So, going back to our notebook. So, this one is basically using this, okay, init function. So, when you look at the definition here, so you are actually having this speak, right. So, instead of that you are actually giving init, okay. So, init of self. So, when you do like this and you are just simply calling d dot speak. So, when you do like that, what happens is that you are actually printing barking, at the same time you are overriding and printing speaking as well, okay. So, this is one method. Now, the second method is basically use super, okay, use super function. So, super is actually a function. So, how you will do is that you have this animal class and you have a dog class which is actually inherited from animal class. So, in your definition, what you have actually done is that you have print of barking, and you are also calling super of. Super of means it will call its own immediate parent and its init function will be used, okay. So, whatever it is, it will be actually printed. So, when you print that, you will also get barking and speaking. So, this is two different ways of overriding and getting to your parent functions. So, these are two different ways. Now, just to have a little bit more clear understanding about it, this is certain examples, that is all, there is nothing, I mean like just to touch upon that. Say you have a class person, okay, you have a class person. So, this is your parent class, and in the parent class you are actually getting the first name and the last name, and you also have got a print name function which will simply print the first name and the last name. So, now you are actually x is actually an object of the parent class, you are actually taking you are giving these two and you are actually printing. So, what will be printed basically when you have this, you will be actually printing John Doe will be printed, right. You are very clear about all this. Now, you are actually creating a student class, okay. So, student is actually inherited from parent. So, this is the parent class and this is the base class. Now, I do not have anything I do not have. So, I just have an empty definition for the student. So, what will I write? I will write the pass. So, this pass just means that I do not have any specific methods or properties or anything for the student class. I am just simply inheriting from the parent class person. Now, I am creating a say an object x is equal to student of Mike and Oslin, okay. So, I will give it as Sini and Raj, okay. I am just giving this names here. So, what happens, so what will be printed? You will be getting Sini Raj, because why? Because you are actually inheriting it from your parent class. So, even though you do not have a definition explicitly, what happens if it is actually inherited from its parent class, if you're creating an object for this particular class, you can actually access that and call the see x dot print name. So x dot print name is this print is actually called, and you are actually using it for printing it here. Okay. Now, so this is exactly the same thing. It's just an explanation which is actually given to you. So you have the student of person. So that means that you have student, right? And say you have an init function. So if init function, if you are using, you can actually first name and last name. So this is one way of overriding the parent function. So this is one way of overriding it. So now the other way is that, so you can also call like person dot init. That means that person is your parent class dot init of this one. So this is one way of doing it. Another way is by using the super function. So super dot init of first name last name means it will actually take the things from your parents. Okay. Python has got this super function. So it's all the same only, but just different ways of explaining it. So you have a person class which has got two different first name last name and the print. Okay, so same example by using, and you have this init class. So in this you are actually calling the first name and last name, but I want the first name and last name which is actually used in my parents class, right? I don't want mine, right? So that's what I'm actually doing. So welcome first name last name means when you print it, basically you will get it like you will be using the function which is actually used in your parent, not in yours, right? So that's what you will be doing, right? So welcome to the class of thing, right? So now so that's all about the different type of inheritance and the different ways of overriding your function on all the stuff. Now we will see about a small thing which is nothing but modules. So as you all know that why we go for modules, because if we have multiple, say if we have a bigger problem, say you can always do break your problems into different modules. So it will make your life easy by dealing with manageable small subtask and then integrating it all together to come out with a bigger task, right? So modularizing will always enhance the simplicity, maintainability, reusability, scoping. So all those things are basically related to the modularizing, right? So module contents can be accessed. So you can import the module. So import sys. So sys is a module from where you can actually have various packages, and it can also have various functions which are defined inside that, and from module, right, import this one, right? So if you use this particular from that particular module, import whichever package you want, you can actually do it for importing that. So these are the syntax. This is actually the syntax which would be used. Okay. And say just imagine this example. So you have something called my program. Okay, so this is your program. So in your program you are actually importing mode 1 as m. So that means that you are importing something called mode 1. So say if you are using import sys. Okay, so what is that sys? Sys is again a program only. Okay, so here this mode 1 is again a program. Okay. So in this particular program you have defined, it's like return in one file or something like that. You have returned, you had some procedure to be, written, or some functionality to be implemented that you have actually written, and you have put it in one box and gave the name mode1.py. Now you are actually importing it here, right? So now another way is like, you can also use from mode 1 import my function. So you are just clearly giving, say this mode 1 can have, say 100 functions inside. Okay, just imagine that mode 1 is a program which you have actually written where you have say 100 or thousands of functions. So if you simply call mode 1 dot as m, and if you call m dot, you will have to invoke all those functions. You don't have to. So if you want to be very specific about which function in mode 1 you have to, then you can use this particular syntax as well. So from mode 1 you have to import this particular function, my function. Okay. So import only parts of your module. If you want to do that, you can go for this one. Otherwise, you can simply import like this. Okay. So now what you have to do is that I will just show you in your program. So say in this. Okay. So first thing which we have to do is that we are going to create a module. Okay. We are going to create a module and we are going to use it in our program. Okay. So where can I see this my module? So first we are going to create my module. So my module is again a simple Python file. So it has got just greeting. Okay, it has got a function called greeting of name. So it will simply give hello name. Okay, so this is the my module.py, my module.py. So we are going to use that in our program. So import my module. Okay, import my module. my module dot greeting of Jonathan. So what happens, it will just simply give you hello Jonathan. So this is one simple example of how to incorporate modules, and you can create user defined modules according to what you want. So this is how you will create libraries. This is just for a simple understanding, extra understanding for you, and you can also use this as a script. I mean, like say you are importing this module 1 as m, and you are simply printing m dot my function, right? So m dot my function means, say here what happens is that you have this function, right, and you are simply giving this underscore name is equal to main. So this mode 1 will run as a script and it will give the answer. So if you want to get something from the user as a command line by using the script, you can actually use this, right? So this option is also available. Okay, so when you look at this particular thing, so this is as simple as that. So you can actually, if you have a bigger function, you can actually divide it into smaller parts and then call it as a module, and each module could be incorporated in your function and you can use it. Okay, so this is something which you could actually try. So just to have a look over to it, say in this my module, you can actually use this if name is equal to main, and so now if you're including that, it will run as a script, right? So this is your function. So in the same way, when you can actually include it by import module as m and m dot greeting, and if you run it, you will get this answer. So these are the simple examples which you have to learn, and so have a look over to these examples, and if you have any doubts or anything like that, please get back to me. Thank you so much.